2, 1, go.
So I'm going to show you how to cut and roll slabs. And slabs are used to create many different types of ceramic pieces, like plates, mugs, bowls, boxes. So it's a really, really important basic ceramics hand building technique to learn. So we're going to start with 4 slats. And then we are going to cut each slab to the thickness of the 2 slats together. But when we roll out, we're only going to use 1. So we want to roll it just to this thickness. So this is a really easy way of cutting a uniform slab. So you place your wire onto the slats, and you have to make sure that your thumbs are holding the wire down. Otherwise, your slab will be uneven. And then you just pull it towards yourself all the way along the slats. And then you can roll your block over and peel off the bottom slab. Now, if it is the bottom or top of the block of clay, then it's going to be a little bit beveled on the side. It won't be completely even in thickness, and that's fine because you're rolling it out. So you just put that aside, and I'm going to cut 2 more. So same thing, just make sure that your thumbs are holding the wire down as you pull. And so we have slab number 2. And slab number 3. And then I put my slats to the side. And sometimes the width of the slab, the single slab, is enough, depending on the size of the piece you want to make. But with larger pieces, often you need to join 2 slabs together. And we want to make sure that we have a really tight seam. So if you just place the 2 together and then roll them out, the joint is not going to be very strong. It is going to break in the places where it is side by side. So you need to move in half a centimeter to a centimeter overlapping. And then with your fingers or thumb, you're going to push down and smoosh the top on top of the other slab. Okay, we'll just smooth it out a little bit. And then flip it over, and you're going to do the same thing on this side. So that overlapping is going to create a really, really solid join of the 2 pieces. Okay? And then we'll start rolling it out. So we want to get it from the thickness of the 2 slats to the thickness of 1. So I'm going to place the single slats on either side. But it's important that I leave some room on either side because I want the clay to move. If I put the slats right beside, the clay is going to actually be rolled on top of the slat, which will make a mess, and it won't allow it to move out this way. So you want to have your slats apart, but you have to make sure that your rolling pin sits on both slabs. Otherwise, you will not get an even thickness. So if my slats are way over here, and I'm rolling, then I may put more pressure on this side or that side or the end, and then I end up with an uneven thickness. And that creates a lot of problems when you are trying to create a piece with the slab. So in terms of starting the rolling, I'm going to start in the middle and move upwards and downwards. And depending on how dry the clay is, it will be easier or harder to roll. So when it's hard, it's just very good exercise for your arms. So I'll do a couple of rolls, and now I'm going to flip it, still keeping the seam vertical. And eventually you're just not going to notice that the seam is there. So it will be very smoothly joined. Okay. And then I need to roll in the opposite direction. So because I'm working with a narrow board, I'm going to cut this smaller. If you're working on a proper table like we have in the classroom with lots of room, then you don't need to do that. So I'm flipping it now so the seam is vertical. Get my slats out again and make sure again that my rolling pin sits on top of the slats. And each time you flip it over, you'll find that the clay has a little bit more give. It's like it loosens up when you flip it. And what you're aiming for is to keep rolling until the rolling pin hits the slats again. Okay, and I'm going to flip it again. And you can see here, the seam is this mottled color. And that's because this clay has been sitting for a while and it starts to develop little bits of mold. But it's not bad mold. The mold is actually good for the clay. And it's just in this case you can see it. But when the piece is fired, you won't see that mottled color. And chances are you're going to cover it with glaze anyway. So let's roll a little bit more. Now it feels like it's about right. I'm going to flip it once more. Just do a little bit more rolling. And then I'm just going to show you how you can line it up to see if the height is okay. So the edge is sometimes a little bit irregular. So I'm just going to cut it across. And then you can lay your slat across. And I can feel that it's just slightly higher. So I'm going to roll it just a little bit more. And what you'll notice is that the clay stops moving once you reach the right height. See, you can see it moved a bit there. And now it's going to stop because you've reached the height of the slats. Okay. So there you have your beautiful slab. And from this, you can make many things using molds. So that means wrapping the slab around something, draping it over top or inside something. And if you are doing a mold that you need to drape the slab over, then you want to do that while the clay is wet and flexible. So let's say I just want to do a half pipe shape. And as long as the surface is wood or plaster, you don't need to cover it. If you're making a mold on top of plastic, then you'll need to cover it either with cling film or newspaper. Otherwise the clay will stick to it. But with wood and plaster, it's fine. So I'm just going to drape this on top, tuck it in a little bit, and then I would let that dry until it's at that leather hard stage. And then I can take it off and work with it and fix it up. If I want to make a box, then I need to have sturdy slabs. So I will cut out my pieces and I'll let them dry until they're at the leather hard stage. And then they will hold their weight. And we'll have another demo for that. And then you can attach walls together and they will hold. Otherwise, if you try and do that when the clay is wet, the walls will just collapse. And that is the beginning of making slab pieces.